pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay. I believe we have to seat alternates. Oh, yeah. I believe we have to seat alternates, or no.
I'm an alternate.
Donna's an alternate. And
I'm an
Bob-
alternate.
Okay, so we seat one of you. Donna, we'll seat Donna for Barbie? Yeah. Seat Donna for Barbie. Okay. Public participation, is there anything that's not on the agenda tonight that the public?
This would be that time.
Yep.
Public participation.
And please state your name.
Yep, you'll step up here, you'll speak on.
Hi, I'm Vivian Michaels. I live on Burma Road in Southbury, so I have some concerns about the number 1703, where the Harry Dog Realty is going to be putting in some stuff there. There are wetlands there, and I see that it has been, has been checked out for wetlands, but we're kind of concerned about that because that's awful muddy most of the time, and that driveway's going to have to go through that area, almost through. I mean, what's designated as official wetlands is wetter in areas that are not designated as wetlands. Believe me, I've lived there, they've lived there, and we can attest, different seasons, that is boggy. And they're gonna be putting a driveway through there? I mean, it seems kinda odd. Also, we're concerned with the, with the building of construction materials and stuff. Some of that stuff and that drainage goes down, it drains into an area where, and the culverts on the map are not accurate. I have the maps here. My neighbor walked the property, she gave me the map, she couldn't be here, and she said, the culverts on the maps are not where they say they are, and they often get blocked up. My neighbor Gary can attest to the fact that he had gotten them unblocked, so for a while there, they dried up a little bit.
Storm drains? Storm drains are you talking about?
No, the
Getting backed
culverts
up?
that drain that property,
Okay.
and it drains, and it ends up draining out, am I right, Bill? It drains under 188, and it comes out on the other side.
Eventually, the water comes out.
Yeah.
The one comes out.
So we're a little bit
South
concerned.
Fork.
I mean, eventually that water's gonna find its way to 8 Mile Brook. And our park is like a gem of Southbury. And we're kind of worried about the ecological possibilities of some damage happening there.
Okay.
I mean, I guess people are free to build on land that's designated okay to build on. As it is, we have a bad enough problem with traffic on Burma Road. I mean, phew, 90 miles an hour down there. So we'll have 2 more people who live there who will discover that. That's a big problem living on Burma Road.
Yep.
Let's see if there's anything else I need to raise. They said the applicant has to show why each alternative was deemed not feasible, how the applicant will change, diminish, or enhance the ecological communities and functions, and why each alternative considered was deemed neither feasible nor prudent. So I guess that's all I really need to say. We just have some concerns about that. And it's gonna be residential housing? I mean, it can't be anything else, right? It can't be businesses.
The proposal is for residential.
Residential
Yep.
housing, okay.
They would need zoning to okay it to be anything other than residential.
Yeah, I can't imagine they do that.
I mean, can they come in after it's been approved that that land could be used and change the zoning and put a business there?
That, we can't speak on that. They're.
Because you're not the zoning.
Well, no, also because the application is for a driveway.
Yeah.
To go to potentially 2 lots, 2 houses, so
Okay,
that's the only thing we can speak on there. And that is on our agenda, so we will get to that at some point
You'll be
here.
adjusting, discussing it when
We'll
we
be
get to
discussing it, yep.
1703. Okay.
Will we be able to speak when that comes up to the agenda?
Jordan, defer to you on that.
Officially, there will be a portion at the end of this meeting where the public can address anything that's
I mean,
come.
I don't know a lot about it, then I need to hear you speak about it to ask.
Yep, and that's totally fair. So the applicant is here as well, so they will address any questions that the
That would be
commission
great.
has. And upon going through the litany of things we have to touch on today, at the end of the meeting, we can address the public again, and any questions they may have will be read into the record.
I mean, we barely even found out about this meeting, and, you know, we had thought that people, I mean, my particular property is not one of the adjacent properties, I'm across the street. But we had thought that anyone who had adjacent property would be notified, and then my other neighbor who can't be here said she looked up the regulations and said it got changed, they don't have to be notified. Is this true?
To my knowledge, I don't think you have to notify,
But in the past, people
unless
were,
it's a change of zoning, I know they have to notify.
yeah, in the past, people were notified.
Okay.
So, okay, I guess that's all I really have to say
Okay.
until we hear what you have to present. Okay.
Thank you.
Did I speak now or have to wait to the end?
You can speak now, yep, just come up and state your name.
Sure, no problem. Hi, my name's Gary Diamond. I live at 128 Burma Road since 1971. That land has always been wetlands, ever since I lived there, okay? But recently, that land has been under 2 feet of water. Under 2 feet, at least 2 feet of water. There's been ducks in that water there. And I have a video because I was concerned because the trees are dying there. So I walked down there, which is a dangerous road to walk on. We get over 1,200 cars a day documented by the Southbury Police Department with a monitor, okay? So I was walking down the road, and I went down to the end of the road. There's an old culvert probably built in the 30s and 40s that goes, this land's water goes underneath 188 and feeds 8 Mile Brook, which ends up in Southwood Falls where they fish and eat food from, okay? And basically, there's a flood here. These trees are dying. I wanted to discover why. So I went down there, and I have a video showing that it's blocked up on both sides. Somebody blocked it up on the culvert on the other side. Now, I walked over the other side of 188 towards 8 Mile Brook. Now, this is all along the waterway that leaves this land that they want to put on is blocked right now. If any of you got out of the car, walked down there the other side of 188, you would see that there's logs laying all over the water that ends up going to 8 Mile Brook. It's constantly being dammed. The state of Connecticut Deep has to get involved in this project to make sure that this culvert that's being built for the driveway can handle it. We get a storm, another tornado, or hurricane, it's not going to handle it. If this thing collapses, we're going to have an environmental mess there. Burma Road will collapse. My worry about it all was I was worried that 188 was going to get undermined if a storm would come through, or Burma Road. So I took some videos how fast the water's flowing there. And if you people don't believe me, it's like 7, 8 gallons per minute that flows on this land when it's rain. We had a dry year, when it's a rainy year. So if you think this is dry land, here's a video. Who can I show it to?
I'd like to see.
You want to see it?
Sure. I'll come up, why don't, do we all want to gather?
Yeah. Here's the,
You can
I don't care.
show it to the
Here's the video of the water. It's only a few seconds, okay? That rock is part of the old culvert that goes under 188. From this point, if you walk 600 feet, you'll be on where their driveway wants to be. Look at that water flowing. And if you go there now, there's probably no water. We had a dry year. Now, this is the other side. This is the other side. Some idiot blocked it up over there. This is the other side. They put logs there. They blocked it on the 188 side. from this end till it gets to 8 Mile Brook. There has to be at least 10 spots there where logs deliberately, looks like they're not beavers doing this, these are human beings. These are cut logs laying, somebody's trying to stop the water from getting to 8 Mile Brook. So they're blocking all this up here. That all has to be cleaned out all the way to 8 Mile Brook before they do this project, okay? You can't start messing with this thing. The state of Connecticut's gotta get involved in this thing. This is not just something you're just gonna throw up and throw a driveway over. Last year, somebody in the purchase area had one of their culverts like this. It collapsed, they couldn't even get to their house. That's all right. I'm not stopping anybody from moving to Southbury. I welcome new neighbors, whoever they are. But it's gotta be done right, or we're gonna have another environmental mess here. I saw trees dying. I saw a swamp over there. And even across from me, there's a mess over there, which the maps of Connecticut, the wetland maps of Connecticut are all wrong for Burma Road. They don't show where the real water is. They don't. And then the other end of Burma Road, when the tornado came ripping through Burma Road, it took out the trees. And then a logger came in and took out more trees. It's the trees that evaporate the water off the land and get the water off. Right now, we have wetlands on Burma Road we never had before. So if more projects come up for Burma Road, I know 33 Burma Road was unrelated to this. Somebody bought it, it's commercial land, but if that land gets built on, it's gonna be an environmental mess for Southbury because the trees are gone. It's a mess there now. And the same with over here. They blasted that whole mountain away over there. The trees are gone. There's nothing sucking up the water. So whoever builds this culvert better deal with deep in the state approval on this thing. It's got to be built well. And you guys are saying this is residential, this culvert and this driveway is going to be built for residential only, not commercial. Is that correct?
That's what's being proposed. That's what's being proposed to us, yes.
Because if it's commercial, I'm totally against this whole project. We don't need any commercial trucks, more traffic. We have over 1,200 cars clocked on a Monday alone on Burma Road. We don't need any more traffic on Burma Road. Okay, that's why I'm asking that. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay. Moving on to show cause hearings continued, 1200 Main Street South. That's the first item in your packet. Jordan, you want to summarize the two visits there?
So
and
Mike
what
is
happened?
not here today, which is unfortunate. But Donna, Dan, Thad, all were on site during the visits. Anyone who didn't get the opportunity to review the large site report that I generated from, I believe it was the 22nd, with 30-plus photos of the site, please let me know, and I will get you a copy of that. But this was more or less to get eyes on the site from a committee perspective and have the commissioners really understand exactly what's going on and ways that we could move forward in a remediation aspect to kind of rectify what's been damaged, whether or not by the current owner, previous owner, whatever it may be. The situation stands that we have some work to do as far as this goes and some necessary remediation action that's going to have to be done. In relation to the filling along the back portion of the wetlands behind the building, that's going to have to be addressed in some way. We were considering and just talking about potentially sloping that area to have a more even slope, additional vegetation, to kind of build back a riparian zone around where the litany of debris, construction materials, commercial vehicles were all in close proximity to the wetlands. That whole area is a mud pit as it currently stands, and it abuts right up against the wetlands with no stabilization or buffer area whatsoever. When we showed up on site on the 9th, I was with Carl and Dan. I'm sorry, it was Carl and Thad. Okay, and while we were on site, it was noticed that a lot of the construction material had been removed from the directly adjacent portion to the wetlands, and a lot of the commercial vehicles had been moved out. There were trenches from where the tires dug into the mud, and the applicant has been given no express, permission to do any remediation action, any cleanup work. It would have been best if the commission got eyes on the situation as it stood, rather than having any cleanup done before you all could get a firm understanding of what's going on and any, egregious practices that might have been conducted. But as it stands, this is kind of the stage we're at. He still is under a cease and desist. This is still part of the show cause hearing, and the applicant isn't here to discuss remediative actions. So.
Have we contacted them, or have you had contact with them since, I guess, in between when you first were out there and I guess this last site visit where he said he was gonna clean up or anything like that? Do we have a timeline for that? Is there reason to, I guess?
Not that I'm aware of. John, is there?
John Mack, the Stewart Summers Company. Yeah, he did contact our office
Okay.
and talked to Charlie about hiring us to put together some kind of plan.
And that's the only stage you're at as of right now?
Yes,
Okay.
as of now, yeah.
Okay.
He just contacted us
Great.
a couple days ago.
Great. So that is a positive aspect to this. We definitely need professionals on this, and a steady hand as far as this applicant goes. He's generally one that likes to do it himself, and it's not always the best product that gets delivered at the end of that result. And this is something that needs to be done right. We have the opportunity to fix up something that's been going bad in Southbury for a long time. This is a very prominent piece of property in Southbury, and there's wetlands surrounding the entire thing. And this,
If I could get a copy of that,
I'd be happy to provide you one.
email it to me, yeah.
The site reports,
The site report, yeah.
I'll give you every single one I got.
Okay, good.
Okay.
Great.
We'll touch base after this. Thank you, John.
So I guess we're going to table this?
We're gonna have to table it and continue it to the next regular scheduled meeting,
We need a vote on that?
and we'll need a motion.
I need a motion to table the 1200 Main Street South, I don't know the number.
I'll make a
application
motion.
number. But-
I'll second.
Okay, we have a
Motion.
Donna motion and Rob second. All in favor? Aye. All abstain? No. All right, I guess we're moving on to 346 Jeremy Swamp.
So, yep, I'll just dive right into this one as well. If any of you aren't aware, as far as 346 Jeremy Swamp, this was all after the fact work that got conducted within the wetlands. There are setback issues that we're dealing with. The ZBA voted to not approve the variance to the setbacks that have been created by the applicant. He could not prove a hardship. He was issued a cease and desist, and that's why he ends up on the show cause hearing as well as the old business, because we were going through an application process of how we were going to get the disturbed soil and the areas of brush and debris that were deposited in the wetlands rectified. And while we were under that process, he decided to go ahead and start doing construction on the wall again and removing the wall from his neighbor's portion and reconstructing it so that it's only on his property. He was issued a cease and desist, neglected to follow the cease and desist order. The wall is reconstructed. He finished the work, and as it stands right now, there's no work to desist, but there was when the order was sent out. So we still need to get remediation processes underway. I spoke with the applicant and laid out exactly what we require as far as a proposal, as far as a plan to make right what was done wrong. He seemed relatively up for the job, but this whole thing has gone back and forth in so many different ways. I really don't know what's gonna come of it, frankly. He could neglect the whole thing, or he could get to work and do it himself and do exactly what the commission is asking, but again, the applicant isn't really here. The adjoining property owner is here. If you have any questions from him, or if he would like to speak.
Hi, everybody. Jason Edwards, 376 Jeremy Swamp Road, which is the property to the west, I guess. Yeah, I mean, I haven't really seen him do anything more after he moved the wall. One issue that's kind of brewing, you know, he's got his zoning variance denied, which eventually, I would assume, leads to him having to deconstruct, you know, everything he built within the building setback, but also within the regulated area setback. I am trying to negotiate with him a way that I can sell him a strip of land about 30 feet wide along that sideline that would eliminate a setback issue, and therefore he wouldn't have to tear all that stuff down, hopefully, and it would reduce the wetlands impact, obviously. It would also move all the wetlands he disturbed. It would put them all on his land and off of mine. The hiccup in that is that I need a zoning variance of the lot shape, I guess it is, right?
Square on the
Square
lot.
in shape. So I don't know how this would come to fruition, but if there's maybe any way that the commission could write a letter or some sort of motion or in favor of supporting that variance so that I could have that in my hand when I went to the zoning board of appeals, it might give them some grounds to grant me a hardship to, or support my application in some way that would give them a little bit of reason to approve it. It's just a thought. I don't know if there's any legal reasons that can't happen. But it seems like a solution to me that would obviously take me out of it completely, which would be nice, and then maybe lessen the impact of the wetlands if he doesn't have to go tear all that stuff down. You know, so just a thought.
Understood.
Yep.
Thank you, Jason.
Any questions for me at all?
I'm not sure how we proceed with that, but
Yeah.
I
It's-
would agree, but
It's a tough one.
Yeah.
that's a first.
Yeah, I know.
Can you accomplish it with a boundary line adjustment?
That's what he's
basically what I
proposing.
would do. Yeah, I have enough land to do it. It's just that the square, I've got a rear lot behind it that accesses via an easement, and I can't have the square within the easement, so I have to get like 15 feet of.
Without the
relief.
easement, he has more than enough room,
Yeah,
but
so, it may be that I can get it through without, but I didn't know if there was any, precedent of the commission supporting a variance application, but
understood.
probably not, right? No. Okay,
Thank you, Jason.
yep, thanks.
Much appreciated.
All right. So I think we need the motion to table this, I guess, till the next meeting?
I'll
Is
make
there
a,
anything we could do to like write a letter to the zoning committee, or even just an email, just say, hey, heads up, he came at the end of the wetlands?
So this would be ZBA.
Be okay.
I'm more than happy to write something myself, but something coming from the commissioners is different than the town employee. So if one of you or a number of you want to draft up something, that's completely up to you. But, yeah, if you'd like me to draft up something as well, just let me know, and we can proceed that way.
Okay.
Great.
Motion to table this till the next meeting?
Motion.
Rob motions, second. Donna? All in favor? Aye.
Thank you, Jason.
All right. Old business, so we just talked about 1694.
Yep.
Do we need to
We can move right
reiterate
along.
that? We're gonna
Nope.
skip
Yep.
right over that, because we've already tabled it. Application 1697, 280 Jeremy Swamp Road. This is construct single-family dwelling crossing new house septic and well.
So Dan, this is the one we visited with Carl? Gonna be the bridge
The
crossing.
drop-off. Yep.
And the drop-off, yeah. Thank you.
Let's see here. So what did we ask them for last meeting?
So last meeting, we wanted to get essentially, a layout of exactly how they were gonna propose to do the work, by phase, how they were gonna remove the trees. We asked that they add notes, pertaining to the reinforced stream area that you'll see kinda right here in the plan.
Yep.
We asked for additional information on where they would be storing the stockpile. Beyond that, do you recall anything else?
Yeah, we added, the sequence of construction on the second page.
Right.
And, hold on a sec. And I added which details increased the length of the, anti-tracking pad. So it goes from the road to the crossing.
Okay.
Usually it's 50 feet, length, so I made it, 80 feet long. And I showed a profile at the bottom of sheet 2 of the culvert. See on sheet 2?
Point to it, John?
Yeah, right here.
That one. Oh, yeah, right.
Yeah, that's it there. So it shows the profile and the driveway going over on top, and it's a 4x8 culvert, precast concrete, this profile. So it's a short culvert, and we have walls on each side with these detailed walls over here on the left-hand side.
This is for your reference. We increased the tracking pad, added a stockpile here, reinforced the stream that cuts through, and then the second page, it's the sequence of notes that end up right here.
Got it.
That's what they're reviewing right now.
And, I did email Jordan the old record map back in 1972, stating that the house development would be on the other side of the street map. So, it was just a copy of the record map stating that the development of the building, of the house would be on the, not the roadside, but the crossing side.
Right.
So it says that in the 72 record,
Yeah, yeah.
original
There's
record,
already one.
back in 1970.
Crossing is real close to
It's
it.
been a long time, yeah. There were some, we were looking through the documents, and there were some contradictory documents stating that Lot 18 couldn't be built, and then they were crossed out, and then there's this document. This is, this wasn't stamped, this particular one. It's on file, yeah, but it's not a stamped document. There's no engineering license involved with it, and it is a note. So we're gonna have to do some more due diligence as far as finding some certified subdivision, regulations pertaining to this lot. But a lot of that is gonna end up being in the land use office anyway, so.
Yeah, so with the current layout we have is, we have the road, short crossing, and we have, for mitigation, there's some erosion going on out there, so we're gonna reinforce that with stone, with machine-placed stone, not just dumped. And then, we have the good test holes for the septic system, and it was approved by the health department, and it's, we're trying to keep all the development on the other side 50 feet away, you know, from the wetlands.
So the 50 foot is the red line.
The red
Correct.
line on, yep, so we're trying to keep we're keeping out of that. We tucked the house up with the driveway coming in to the right, and then, showed a well up in the back. And so we've got the well radius here. There's, it's, vacant land up above it.
And
So-
you haven't done any hydrologic reporting?
I did, it should be, you should have a
There
copy of
was?
that.
Yeah.
Should be in the
So,
file.
can I ask a question?
Mhm.
So how much of this 1.01 acres is wetland?
It's on the application. The small
He listed, give or take, 0.15 acres.
.15 out of the 1 acre. So I show a pile, temporary pile for the riprap up here in the corner. And then they can work on this side of the stream first. And then once they get the crossing, then they can work on the other side of the stream.
And that's what's
Channel
listed in
is
the,
in some places
the
only
sequence notes.
wide,
Sequence.
and it levels out, and there's a fork out there, if I remember right. A fork in the channel. I mean,
Oh,
they
yeah.
kind of,
Yeah, there's a pipe there.
Yeah, there's the
pipe's
pipe.
coming out. So there's
it's just a
leading in there.
pipe laid on the ground, more or less.
So the pipe's coming out and there's, it's pretty clean, but there's erosion going on the
Yeah.
bank, so.
Yeah, it's eroding the bank back, changing the course for sure.
Yeah, and above there, there's an existing driveway just upstream, and there's a 4x7. The 4 feet is 4 feet wide, 7 foot
So there's
tall.
only one house that's been built in this?
There's a house on both sides.
Yeah, I was about to say, I know there's a house on both sides, I don't know about the other two.
Okay.
This, and, I don't know, John, can you speak to the number 17 crossing? Lot 17 crossing?
17 crossing is down, is further away.
Yeah, it's further away, right?
Yeah, so, I
don't
didn't know,
remember
I
seeing
didn't wanna
that.
bother to,
No, just,
but.
but we're similar construction to 19.
Yeah.
Wise, about the same amount of fill.
Concrete square block, but the 4 feet wide is at the bottom, 7 foot is 7 foot tall.
We're gonna have a wider
That's
channel
tall.
on this one.
7 feet tall.
So, yeah, opening, yeah.
Well, there's a fair amount of fill to make that grade,
Yeah.
the driveway.
It's a short, yeah, it's, like I said, it's total 80 feet to there.
Yeah.
So it's, at the shoulder, there's -10, so it's 70 feet. But, the driveway will pitch down,
Yep.
so it'll save on some of the fill. It's like 6 feet, 7 feet.
Yeah.
Just for reference, a letter from the Office of the Director of Health dated September 1st, 1972, a highlighted portion states, lots 18, 19, and 20 on Jeremy Swamp Road must have houses located to the rear of the lot beyond the brook, which is where this house is located. It is coinciding with what the note states on the map provided when the subdivision was made. This supersedes a previous note dated before that date on August 25th, 1972, stating that lots 18, 19, and 20 are not acceptable. These lots are split by a brook. To build, extreme fill would be required. These are both submitted by the Director of Health. But the latest letter from 72 states that they must have houses located to the rear beyond the brook.
I mean, that's the only place you could put a house there.
Yes.
In my opinion, but, okay.
So it meets all the zoning, there's setbacks, 30 feet from the property line, Southbury, so there's no zoning variance for that house location. It's a good-sized house, so I think it's a good spot for it. It's gravity to the septic.
And the house hasn't changed since the location hasn't changed since the last meeting?
I just
Okay.
added a few things, but the house is the same.
Okay.
Yep.
Any further discussion here?
Don,
Any thoughts?
I may need to have that hydrologic report resubmitted, because it ends up not in the
More a
file.
100-year storm, and it meets a 100-year storm. There's capacity.
The culvert, yeah.
It's more than enough for a 100-year.
Okay. So yeah, if you could resubmit that, I'll get that in the file, and if everything lines up with it confirming to a 100-year storm, I'll confirm that with the commission.
I gave that, it's not part of your
Sorry about that. Yeah. Nothing I can find here.
I'll get you a copy.
My apologies.
So the impact, I guess the main impact is the fill of the driveway coming down to the culvert and the culvert itself. And the mitigation is the armoring along the channel. I don't know so much as,
Add some trees, I don't think it's necessary.
yeah, I mean,
And the leach field and the alternate leach field are both outside of that area?
Yes, the reserve is, to the side, and both of them are outside the 50 feet. Because it's really good, there's gravel and good soil and, healthy.
What about the heavy equipment? Because it looks like it's within 10 feet of the setback. Where the reserve field, where the septic field is?
the 50-foot.
There's just not gonna be any fill, it's gonna be in the ground.
He's referring to the equipment used to install that.
Maneuvering around, just
Well, they
Installing.
could work for,
That's pretty flat there, though, right
yeah.
now.
You've called out in the sequence the equipment to be used on site. If you could just reference on there, John, on the next page. You call out a small piece of machinery being used in order to mitigate this,
Track, skid steer,
All the
John Deere.
disturbances would be,
and the notes aren't on that.
we did add equipment list.
Yeah, let's just read it off.
One of the things I've seen is that they talk about this. And when you actually go out there to look, all of a sudden you see. I don't think we have that.
I know for, do they have the revised plans?
They don't, no. They do.
So,
So those plans are from the last meeting, yeah.
so we have the septic reserve and this, the mantis, that's
Yeah, the
water
new,
retention.
the new technology allows you to put one row in.
Yep.
We used to put 3 rows, 75-foot stone trenches.
And
Those
this
days are gone.
is,
How
it's
do
not
they-
very steep here. I mean, we
How
got
do
2
they
feet.
speed up the microbial?
They use like an accordion.
Oh, I've never even talked about this last meeting
Yeah.
here,
Yeah.
like
So-
corrugated
So
cardboard.
it looks like an 8 carton, and it gives it more area than a 4x4 gallery. It's like almost twice.
We show the silt fence cutting between the two, septic reserve and the mantis. I don't know if that was just an oversight or,
That
we're
should
gonna have
go-
to dig the septic reserve, right?
The reserve doesn't have to be touched.
to install it.
To install it.
The reserve doesn't get installed.
I'm sorry.
Yep.
The reserve is where, if this is not
That's
approved.
proposed.
Okay.
Primary is
Understood.
installed. The reserve is 100% reserve, showing that we could get 100% in there, but it's not.
Okay.
Understood.
Yep.
We have silt fence right along the border.
Of the regulated area.
That's pretty flat there. I can't see it having an issue. Machinery. I mean, there's not markers out there, obviously. So the 50
No.
uphill
Not
side.
50 foot now.
No,
We
there are
could
no,
add 'em.
there are no wetlands markers on site.
It could be added, if you need every 100 feet or so, maybe 3 of them.
They're off by 30, 40 feet.
So it'll have to be installed, obviously, as you work in that direction. Anything about, so there's no grading or anything else happening in the upland?
No.
Okay.
That'll be like,
I don't think they need to be going in there, making a mess they'd have to clean up afterwards.
So, in the resolution that's been drafted, for your reference, line 10 and 11 revolve around monitoring this construction if it were to be approved. Part of the stipulation notes that construction activities within the wetlands and 50-foot regulated area, which would include the bridge and proposed driveway, are to be monitored by a professional engineer or licensed soil scientist at the applicant's expense, and site reports are to be submitted to the land use office daily, and maintenance of erosion controls are to be inspected monthly by the wetlands enforcement officer. So if in fact, we do move forward with this proposal, there will be, strict guidelines that are gonna need to be followed when it comes to filling in the wetlands, construction within the wetlands related to the bridge. And while that construction is ongoing, outside of the pretty standard building of a house, that's gonna have to be heavily monitored and a lot of oversight.
That's,
is gonna need to
and
be-
that's part of the plan, I guess.
We could even, if you want, we could even stake that 50-foot offset.
Well, I think Thad's concern was just the equipment being right there, digging for your septic right on the boundary.
If you want, we can stake it out.
I mean, if the silt fence is gonna be your boundary there, so I mean, it's, it's a visual thing, I guess, for the operator. Okay. I mean, that,
Would you like to propose the installation of wetlands markers? As far as this project goes, because it would be the time to do it.
Yeah, it's not a bad idea.
I think at least on the uphill side.
Yeah.
At least on the uphill side,
House side.
correct.
There's really no
You
point.
got a brook, you know what I mean, you got a stream that runs through. It's pretty indicative of what the wetlands are, that's kinda a glaring note in and of itself.
The wetlands
From moving,
from moving.
changing
Right,
your line.
yeah.
Cheating.
For the time being, at least,
Yes.
so.
Any thoughts on that, wetland markers?
I think it's a good thought.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wetland markers on the uphill side.
Yeah, I mean, I'll go. along with
How frequently would you like them placed? Yes, John, yep.
Our typical 100 feet, is
100
that what we
feet.
do?
120.
Let's see.
That would
Or
only put us at 2.
50.
Yeah,
It's a
what is that,
small area.
120 feet across? So I mean,
I don't think we need to pepper them with
Yeah.
wetlands markers as far as.
no, I mean, I would think,
Just a reminder.
Well, if they've got this all in properly,
yep,
where it's supposed to be,
Which will be monitored monthly by
then,
myself.
then I would say this would probably be enough of a guide that they wouldn't need to have.
well, after construction's done, I think the marker, like a permanent marker.
Right,
Yeah.
yeah.
Any thoughts on the frequency? 50, 100 feet, 75? We can,
So if there's inland wetlands, then they're not gonna be putting sheds and barns and other things out
They
there.
would have to
in
get
the
that
future.
approved through zoning and, yeah,
Yeah.
that likely wouldn't be occurring.
so I guess it's a matter of 1 or 2 markers, the way I'm seeing it. If we do 50 feet, it's gonna be about 2 markers, I'd say.
Yeah, let's do 2 markers.
Yep.
Yeah,
That's
do it.
fine. Gonna add that.
Okay.
Okay. Any other discussion, questions for John? Hearing none, do you have a motion to approve?
Pending the
Pending the
wetlands markers
addition.
addition and the submission of the previously submitted hydrologic report
Yep.
to confirm that it does in fact meet the 100-year storm requirements.
Right, all the calculations.
Okay. Yeah, pending that, those 2 items. We have a motion to approve.
I'll make a motion to approve it as described.
Okay, we have a second? Rob seconds. All in favor? Aye. Motion carries. Yep.
John? Much appreciated, yes. We'll have a whole swap of information up here soon.
This one yours?
This is, yeah, John, that's yours.
All right. Application, moving on to application 1767 Horse Fence Hill Road. Fields. After the fact approval for creation of a pond.
So, I believe it was Dan and Carl
Yep, we had a site walk there.
did the sidewalk there. You wanna talk about that?
And basically met with the applicant, or after the fact applicant, and there was a pond, I guess you were up looking at something else.
Yep, zoning for a proposed garage he wanted.
Yep. And there was a pond on site, which I guess was not on the,
Never got a permit for it.
there was no permit for it.
Clearly within the 50-foot regulated area from the wetlands.
Yep.
And there's a shed there right next to it also.
That's no longer.
pump house?
Oh, the pump house, that's right, yes.
Yeah, pump house.
Pump
Okay.
house, yeah.
So there is a pump house there.
Small structure,
In
yeah.
the, what, 3x3?
Yeah,
4
very
by
small,
4,
sitting
something
on
along that lines. It's
gravel subbase, no
just
excavated
enough to have a
footings.
pump to pump the water from this pond back up to water plants or something of that nature. Basically, the applicant said that when the house was built, there was a spring encountered that drained water down to this pond. I think he's got piping underground to it.
Yes, that feeds the pond.
That feeds the pond. It looks like a lined pond.
Yep.
You know, so it's not leaching, I guess. There is an overflow, some sort of structure for overflow there, a weir or something along those lines and it does discharge to the wetland in question. Honestly, in my opinion, and I think what Carl and I talked about was that this is more of a rain garden than a pond. It accepts water when it's wet and probably doesn't have much in it on a dry year like this year. So I guess is there?
Upon reviewing it, yeah, there was really nothing of concern, even while I was there on site, but there was something conducted within the regulated area that I felt needed to be at least approved and permitted.
Okay.
So that's kind of where we're at right now. It's been there for quite some time. There seems to be no adverse effects pertaining to the wetland. It seeps out and overflows as it goes, and everything seems to be, you know, the water flows to the wetlands one way or another. As far as this one goes, it just takes a pit stop in the pond.
Yeah, if the pond wasn't there, it basically a pipe would daylight and it would go right down, which would probably be worse. So it slows it down some.
So wait, how's it going from the pond to the wetland area right now? Just general
So
overflow?
there's a pipe.
Underground,
Correct me if I'm
can't
wrong.
see it.
No, I'm saying the pipe on the backside where it runs
The low
out.
side, where it goes to the wetlands.
Oh, okay, yeah, that goes underground,
Mhm.
and that's all the way to where that berm was.
Yep.
And then it shoots out. Yeah, so there is some scour there, I think, that we were seeing.
A bit, yeah. Over
But-
time, this has been, you know, over a decade that water's been slowly maneuvering through this area. There's
Yep.
definitely evidence of scour.
I think maybe more significant than if it was overland, but, you know, it's gonna go where it's gonna go at that point.
Yeah.
You know, it's pretty steep coming down to where the pond is. So. I think the only other issue was there were some piles unstable.
Yeah, you had some exposed soil. We spoke about getting silt fence wrapped around those areas to, you know, maintain everything until the spring comes and we can reseed it and stabilize it.
Right.
His intention was to leave the piles in place, correct? He was gonna leave them with all the other ones.
Yeah, he was gonna utilize them for some grading as he saw fit. He already had the portion that when I arrived on site and advised him to do such erosion controls, he installed them. And then there was another portion that he didn't cover so well. So just telling him to add the erosion controls to that small area in addition was something we spoke about on site.
So he's compliant.
Yeah.
Any further questions or discussion on that?
I'm gonna abstain from voting. These are friends of mine.
Understood.
We have a motion to approve application 1700. Hold on a minute here.
The resolution includes installation of proper erosion controls that will be installed and maintained until such a time that stabilization can be achieved as the additional stipulation.
You'll go back and review that it's been done.
Yes, I will.
Motion to
I'll make a
approve.
motion to approve as stated.
Rob motions, or Robert and Rob. Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried. All right, on to application 1701, 254 Pomprog River Road, Harry Rawlinson. Removal of trees and the repair and replace stairs and small platforms.
Harry is not here. So,
Did everyone get a chance to look at the pictures for that? I believe that was in your report, right?
so this is a cottage on a cliff,
Yeah, this is.
essentially.
The reason I asked about that is it's as on a cliff as you would make a house.
It,
And the road leading down to it as well.
we had to rely on Harry to drive us in, and I'm not gonna lie, I got nervous.
Yeah, it's a
Quite the
a
drop.
goat path,
Yeah, that's being,
being generous.
generous.
Wow.
All right, so the application is for removal of trees and to fix the stairs
Any other platforms,
and the other platforms that,
you'll see Carl walking around in the pictures.
Yeah.
That's where his septic field was installed. He intends on putting a stone patio in that small area, just adjacent to the house.
Okay, now which trees are we talking about?
So if you look to the picture after Carl's picture, and then the one following that, it's hard to see, but there's small white ribbons that are wrapped around the
Okay, yeah, I
trees.
see those.
Essentially, there's a power line that feeds the house that actually runs across the Pomperaug River there.
barely see it in the last picture.
I don't know how they installed that
Oh my God.
utility pole, probably the boat or, some lumberjack, but the trees are very precarious.
Are they dead already, or
No.
are,
They,
are
they
they
just,
serving a function in stabilizing the stream bank?
I would assume they're stabilizing the bank. I mean, this is all ledge. I mean, it's
Yeah.
not a whole lot of overburden there, so it's
Okay,
what's there, I guess. The stumps weren't gonna be taken out per the applicant. There's
okay.
that. I don't know how he would, but.
yeah, he proposes a concern based on the proximity to his home. I think the concern is how they would get removed. He clearly stated that cost is gonna be an issue with how many trees he is able to remove as far as this goes. So not all that are proposed are likely to be removed if this was approved.
Great.
But the reality is, these are very difficult to get to. They'd probably end up being winched back out.
So he's gonna dig the trees, he's not gonna leave the root ball in there or the way it is?
No, he's saying he's gonna have to winch the wood out,
Winch the logs out once
logs
they're.
and everything. I mean, it's,
Roots and all, you mean?
Yeah, that's.
no,
really-
they're gonna get
No.
cut.
Okay.
Yeah, the roots, and that was one of the questions we had for him, was he gonna
Yeah.
leave the root balls?
Yeah, that's what I'm
There's no
saying.
way to dig them out. You can't pull those things
No.
out of the ground.
Okay.
I think the
understand.
ribbons was more of a wish list, like, can I take these ones down?
Right.
I may not take them all down, but these are the ones I'd like to.
So how many total was he gonna take down?
I believe his application called out five. 3 to 4 6-inch diameter trees.
And everything here is within the 100-foot.
Correct.
Was the septic permitted? Or what septic work he did?
None of the deposition of material went through this commission.
So if you look at the pictures, this is the first we're seeing of it, so I guess what we're saying, but
Yep.
all this light gray material on
Yeah,
the
Carl's
driveway,
walking on, mhm.
where Carl's standing, that,
I believe he said was placed
That's the septic,
not
huh?
a week prior to our
it was
visit.
very recently. And actually, you can kind of see our footprints going down to where Carl was. It's pretty loose there, soft.
Yeah, yeah.
No silt fences, no nothing. So while the application is for
There are
tree
other
removal
concerns there,
and fixing the, there's significant disturbance there.
yeah.
Um,
And was there one there before? Is that, is
There was
it
a road there
replacement?
before, and I don't know about a pre-existing septic. I would imagine there was something.
Yeah, there had to have been some.
How did they get around the house? Like, in this picture, it's on, how did they do that?
Yep. It is a precarious spot, no doubt about it. You know, what biggest concern I had was that this driveway is gonna funnel all the, stormwater right to the house.
Yeah.
How long has this house been there?
A while.
By the looks of it, a long time.
50s, probably,
So it predates,
zoning.
yeah.
Right, that's why it exists, but
So, I mean, I think just given the scope of the work that's already been completed,
Oh, the
I
trees are
think
nothing.
the trees are, yeah, the trees are,
Oh, my goodness.
we have a lot of trees crossing even in this picture, crossing the driveway that if came off the hillside would block somebody in anyways. I
It's
don't
like-
see how they can get any emergency services down there either, so.
I wouldn't want
But-
them taking down the trees on the other side of the septic tank, because that would really destabilize.
I don't believe there were any proposed on that side.
Yeah, I don't,
The majority of the proposal,
no, so if you're looking at the picture with Carl there,
There's nothing there.
pretty much everything out of the picture to the right, there is one that's kind of going back to where the utility pole is. There was that bigger oak was on there, right? Mm-hmm. Which is,
And it's just because he's concerned it's gonna fall on the house.
yeah, the final,
That one, yeah, that's leaning towards his power lines, I think, more than the house.
right,
If so, yeah, if you look in the last picture.
river or the power lines across?
power line
the-
across,
Yeah.
that's the only power line accessing the house,
Yeah, so that's where so it's leaning in the river, the tree.
towards the
Yep,
river,
if
yeah.
you look at the last picture 5, it shows it, the only one leaning.
And these-
And you see the kind of greenish, utility pole there.
Yeah.
The branches probably do hang over the utility lines. It's hard to tell, but, so that's one of the trees as well that you can't see that's marked. So,
So,
So from there, it becomes just a matter of how much would you like to give approval for or not, and how much of the work that's already been conducted do we need to rein in and get done properly from,
How many,
this
how many
commission's
trees did he
perspective.
have tagged?
5.
Five. And how many did you think posed a threat to the house?
The ones immediately adjacent to the house that are flagged, you can see in the picture 5 there, there's that.
Yeah, I mean, it's,
He's already trimmed off a bunch of branches here too. I think, there's been some work done there. In image 4, that's on the, just downhill of the walkway, I believe. And those seem like, in a storm, those could come back towards the house. Personally, why he picked these 5, I'm not entirely positive. There's
Right.
a bunch of trees there that all
Yeah.
could be an issue. I believe they're hemlocks.
yeah, on a bad day, he could get hit by
All
10,
of them.
like all of them.
Yeah, so
In the middle of the woods on a cliff, like any of these things could adversely affect him, so
personally, I think there's some an aesthetic
desire. as far
desire here as well.
Yeah.
Not to say that any of these wouldn't damage his house, so there's cause, I guess, but,
So there's only one that's impacting the power lines that's listing?
yep.
Okay,
From what we saw, yeah.
Yeah, and it's,
okay.
and, that could stay there forever and not have an issue. But it's leaning over pretty good. All the trees were alive, I'm fairly
Could the tree be
positive.
cabled,
Can the tree be cabled?
the one that's listing?
I would imagine so. I don't know. Yeah, you'd have to anchor it to the bedrock there.
Sometimes to another tree,
Yeah.
I've seen
mean-
that done.
Some
Personally, I'd
professionals
leave
gonna
the
have,
tree
yeah.
and prune the branches off, overhanging the wires.
Yeah, and then cable it.
And then,
If there's a storm that takes those trees down, it's likely gonna, others will impact his house.
Yeah.
Including the power. Okay, I would suggest we add some verbiage into the resolution to encourage him to come to us before he does any other site work and silt fencing.
With a proposal at least of,
I don't know how we add that. Cause it seems like there's been quite a bit of work done.
it would appear that we won't be moving forward with this application until such a time that we can speak to the applicant to get some of your concerns rectified and to get an understanding of what's going on site prior to moving forward with the resolution as it stands, because as it stands, stipulations are no heavy equipment shall be utilized for cutting or removal of trees within the 100-foot regulated area, and no trees or cuttings shall enter the Pomperaug River. Those are pretty boilerplate for this type of work. But your ability to get things on site rectified prior to issuing a permit, you hold that ability as of right now. So it would be my advice to not approve and table this application until such a time that we can speak with the applicant and get a full understanding of what he can do as far as
Or what the plan is.
controlling the work that's been done and what his plan is moving forward.
Okay. Motion to table this
Make a
application?
motion to table.
Okay. We have a second?
I'll
Rob will second. Okay, that will be tabled till next month. Application 1702, 1162 Bullet Hill Road. The applicant cut some trees in the, I think it's upland review area.
Based on the map that was provided by the applicant, it did appear to be the upland review area based on what we saw on site and corresponding with the delineated wetlands on the town GIS. It appeared to be the upland review area. The applicant called out 4 trees that he would like removed. All he claims pose a risk to his yard or his house. While on site, I had difficulty seeing how they pose a threat. They're quite far from his house. There's quite a bit of distance from the house to the wetlands, and then some where the trees exist. Dan noted a number of saplings that are taking root and are pretty healthy. Tree canopy in 20 years could be revitalized, but as it stands, he did note one of the largest and most mature trees within what appears to be the upland review or the regulated area did have a split in it, which has healed over but could cause rot in the future. That would be image 2. It's circled. I'm sorry. If you have colored images, that's great. And then image 1 just is one of the wetlands markers that were shown. We requested a professional review prior to moving forward, and the applicant isn't here. So as far as it stands right now, I think this needs to be tabled until we get that professional review from a tree cutting service to understand what's good or bad about the subject trees. Are they at risk of damaging the property or the house? The applicant stated he has kids and wants them to be safe while utilizing the property, which is fair. But it stands that we still needed a bit more information from a professional, and we don't currently have that.
So they were in good health. They were in good health.
Seemingly.
One of them, I would say, did appear rotted. It was the big
Yeah,
one
the-
off in the corner. The other one in the corner was leaning quite significantly, but we're talking about a corner of the property that didn't seem
Pretty
readily
far away.
usable. You'd have to be standing under it deliberately in order to be damaged by it. The main, there was another tree kind of very, the closest one, and it appeared to be in decent health. Not a huge tree, didn't think it would fall in the house.
That was the one by the split tree, correct?
That was the one that was covered with stone around it,
Okay.
like
Closer,
right on the
yeah.
property boundary.
Yep.
Before the wetlands. And, but the big one was the very, very mature tree with the split in it, and assessing that condition would be valuable as far as making this decision.
Now, he's not gonna use any heavy equipment, he's gonna just cut it down himself and cut it up for firewood?
Yeah, so he proposed utilizing a professional tree service, no heavy equipment, and then he proposed leaving the trees in place until such a time that he can go in by hand, cut them by hand, and then remove them by hand. This was all proposed by the applicant. So I think he has an understanding of what we require from the wetlands perspective, but also the need, I think, needs to be addressed and,
Yeah, there's certain of the trees that probably should come down. They're no, you know, they're rotted or dead. But like the split tree, you know, there's a lot of shade for that wetland in that area. Why that would come down, I don't really know.
Was there any tornado damage from 2018 in that area?
it appeared.
Yeah, you can
Yeah.
see there's like that limb there.
Yeah.
Not this tree. And image 2, just to the right of the tree in question. You know, it's like the tops, some of the tops are ripped out. And all that's laying in the wetland at this point. You know, so there's certainly some loss of canopy there either way.
I mean, you hear strange stories in the news about how random limbs have fallen and killed someone riding a lawnmower. So
Absolutely
I
happens.
I can understand, but if they're healthy trees in a wetland, you know, it's,
Well, I'll tell you, between the bugs, you know, and the tornado and the winds that we've been getting,
Yeah.
I've had 18 trees come down in 4 years.
wow.
And a couple of them went real fast. All of a sudden, the bark just started delaminating. So, you know, if there's a threat at all to his house,
Well, I don't think any of these were ash trees.
ash borer. yeah.
Ash borer like you're talking about. This one, the one circled with the split is, I believe, a tulip. If I'm seeing that correctly. And, you know, it didn't look, I mean, the split was completely healed.
But do any of them look like they threatened the house?
I mean, I'd have to measure it, but
Right, it
I
would-
can't conceivably see this as even gonna reach the house and then 50, 60 feet. I mean, it's quite a ways. What is it, 100, 120 feet to the
least.
wetland marker that you can see here?
So the biggest tree could potentially pose the biggest risk outside of the one that's leaning on the corner of the property. I could conceivably understand removing those. And if necessary,
Removing them, why?
so one of the trees does lean on this property, to Donna's point. People tending to their yard could potentially become injured by such a tree that wanes onto their property very significantly. The one beyond that was actually rotted and dying. Does it pose a risk? Unlikely. But as far as the waning tree, that one, you'd have your largest case that poses a risk to safety. And then this subject tree with the split in it is the largest, depending on its height, depending on how it falls. This is why we wanted a professional review of this application.
To
So
see
you're
if,
saying that tree and one other tree, you think both of those should come down?
Pose the biggest risk.
Pose the biggest
And
risk.
this is, I would personally think we would benefit from a professional review, understanding the height, understanding the distance from the house, how that split could have affected it, or it healed itself and is perfectly healthy and is gonna sustain for years and years to come.
yeah, I think there's maybe a split decision to be made there. These ones can stay, these
Well,
ones
if-
can go.
Yeah,
Depending
if there's a tree you say that definitely should come down, then that should be set aside from one that you want to have looked at.
And we talked with the applicant about having someone look at it while we were on site. I don't know if that's happened or not, but.
Yeah, not to our knowledge.
Okay.
I've not heard anything in the office.
Is that kind of professional advice, like, free? Is that gonna cost the applicant money?
Likely. Or it's a consultation. If they wanna do the work, it really.
He's gonna have somebody
Can we
come out.
give him approval to remove the 2 trees that are dangerous at this point, and any further removal, he has to have a professional review? I mean,
I think if
I'd
he was
rather
here,
err
he
on the
could-
side of caution if there's
Yeah,
any
frankly.
possibility it falls in the yard and gets somebody, you know? Unless we can give him a recommendation to please have everyone steer clear, which no one really,
Yeah, it's not.
I know, so-
You don't wanna be liable for that.
No.
Yeah, I
So
don't-
why not give them permission to get rid of the 2 that you mentioned are impacting or possibly, and if they want further removal, we need a professional to tell us if that's necessary.
I personally would feel better if he was here to agree to that. I agree with you, Bob, absolutely, but
That's fair. Because now we're asking him to go through an entire application process, which costs money as well.
yeah.
The only thing I'm just figuring is with the holidays coming and everything, so he's gonna lose another month and then get somebody to line him up for the holidays, so it'll be after January, February, when he comes in to see us, this might not, you know, and if we get a bad winter, weight of these trees, or is it possible you think that they can come down? Or?
I don't think any of the trees significantly, displayed any rot that they were
Like about to come down.
inevitable.
Okay, that's good enough for me then. Okay.
They all seemed pretty healthy as they stood, and they all seemed and have a discussion with the owner about,
Okay,
exactly.
I'll make that motion.
Rob will second it. All in favor? Aye. Motion carries.
Very good.
Where are we here? Application 1703,
1702.
1702, I'm sorry, Bullet Hill Road.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, yeah, we
You
just
were-
did
You
that.
had it.
We did that.
Yeah,
My apologies.
1703, 1380 Southford Road.
It's
Oh,
Burma.
no, I'm sorry, that's the applicant, that's
That's
why I
the
got that
applicant's
wrong.
address.
199 Burma Road to construction common driveway and utilities to access 2 future building lots.
Need a hand, Rob?
Good evening,
Hello.
Ron Wolf, professional engineer. Representing the owner and applicant, Donna Jacobs of Harry Dog Realty. Okay, to give you an update, we had our field walk a couple weeks ago with a few members of the commission. We pretty much walked the wetland area. We had the proposed driveway flagged out. We walked up to about the stone wall here and reviewed the upland area where the proposed house sites were. I showed the commission where the wetland delineations were, where we had the soil scientist delineate the wetland. And to my knowledge, I think I answered all the questions the commissioners had. I did speak with the Director of Public Works about his review comments, and I believe he was gonna.
Yes, Catherine.
Oh, sorry about that.
You can move it right here.
Okay. I spoke with the Director of Public Works regarding his review comments about the proposed driveway approach to the road and the guardrail, and he felt that those were things that could be worked out when the actual construction of the driveway and the permit was pulled. He was supposed to speak to Jordan about that. I'm not sure if he did, but.
Yep, he spoke with me.
did.
He
So I
essentially-
believe we've adequately addressed his comments at this time. So with that, if the commission has any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer them.
Did you include a place where the fire department can turn or something, whatever?
Yep, we have the plans called for the 50 by 50 foot area at each house for driveways that are over, I think, 250 feet long. So each house has that emergency vehicle turnaround area shown.
So they're
That's
not
in the-
asking for turnaround on the road?
No, we didn't get any comments for that.
Okay.
That's in,
The only comments we received were from the Director of Public Works.
So the fire marshal was able to get his comments in late, but yesterday.
Okay.
And essentially, accessible pull-off is needed at approximately 700 feet from the road.
I think, and it specifically says pull off and not turn around.
Yeah, 700 feet?
700 feet.
We're
from
not
the
even
road.
700 feet. The whole driveway isn't 700 feet, maybe
I think
it
they
could be
were-
less.
Yeah,
But these turnarounds, this is the farthest one, it's about 540 feet to the
540.
house, so. But I'd be more than happy to work that out with the
So in other
great,
words,
yeah,
fire chief.
because for the access
those
of,
two turnaround areas that are up there in gray?
Yep.
They would answer the fire department's request to have a turnaround?
Those are in the driveway regs for emergency vehicle, service vehicles.
Okay.
So those have been on the plan since we submitted. If he did want a little wider area somewhere, the driveway's already 15 feet wide, but we could make that outside
Somewhere
of the
halfway.
upland review area, so there's plenty of room to do that.
Yeah.
What Jordan and I were talking about was at 700 feet, they would need a pull-off because they would stage another truck in between the water supply and the house.
But he's saying it's not even 700 feet out to the farthest part there.
And I don't know that the fire marshal
He may not have.
Might have not
realized
measured
that.
it
measured it. He
properly.
was just thinking it's a long driveway.
Right.
We may need a pull-off.
700 feet is the maximum length of hose any given truck is utilizing, so they would need to connect multiple hoses to access a supply truck on Burma Road if anything were to happen. So that was his point, maybe, 500 feet at max, maybe they do
Right.
need a bit of extra hose, it's not linear, so there might be, to go around the house, to go in the house, whether or not that farthest distance to the pavement is that, but maybe they need a bit extra, so these things we'll have to discuss with the fire marshal, and,
Sure.
They do have room halfway up the driveway, if they needed to do a pull-off, it would operate outside of the regulated area, so it relatively seems feasible. It slopes pretty steadily in that area, it's not too steep, so I could see that at least concern being addressed.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Thad, do you want to talk about the site walk?
So we not only walked along Burma Road, but we also walked along the flagged proposed driveway, all the way up to the, if you can see the stone wall here. By that time, the wetlands, we passed a wetland review area, and this whole area where they're actually building is high and dry.
Can I just ask, because I don't see any green lines on here, so where are the wetlands? Is the little flags that are numbered?
Yeah, those
Yes,
are the
That's
wetlands.
gonna be the delineated wetlands, and then the line after that.
The darker double dash
Yeah,
line is
it's a
the
dashed line.
50-foot.
50-foot
Yep.
set.
50 foot. So, the biggest concern is the fact that this goes across, a considerable portion of wetland, but there is no other alternative. This is the shortest, if you go down and look at how this thing spans out, the wetland area actually increases if you go either direction, basically. So, they chose this driveway to minimize the impact. It's still, when we looked at it, and you can't really tell, because this is not three-dimensional, but from Burma Road up to about 100 feet in, it goes down quite a bit and then it comes up. And so we were asking the engineer about what kind of fill and how much fill and how big a project is that going to be to kind of not have such a steep pitch.
Ban the
Yeah, on that particular area. We walked around up there where the houses were proposed and where the septic tank, and it's just, everything up there looks like it's, there are no factors for inland wetlands. The biggest factor is obviously this driveway is going through 200 feet of wetlands, but it's the shortest distance. And that's pretty much what we looked at, and it seemed like it to be a reasonable, not only that, but on the other side of Burma Road, the pitch gets pretty high. You actually have like a miniature mountain coming down the back there. So there is quite a bit of water that sheds down to either Burma Road or even across the street into this wetland area at certain times of year. But, and there are, there's a guardrail all the way along here, so that would obviously have to be,
This line with the circles is the guardrail.
Yes, yeah.
the
we-
guardrail, there's a portion of the guardrail that would have to be removed and reconfigured.
Readjusted and made to fit necessary sightlines, but Public Works and the Highway Department are looking towards that driveway permit and getting a professional engineer to address all those problems.
And the culvert that drains onto that property right there as well. It goes
Correct.
Goes
Yep.
under Burma Road. That's,
Yeah.
that's right.
It's right next to it. The driveway is up gradient
Yep.
of that drainage. Ron noted while we were on site that as the driveway gets installed, it's going to confine a portion of the wetlands from its down gradient area where it wants to drain, but the area up gradient that is being confined is rather small. Just to the left here.
Like the northwest. would be like
Northwest,
right-
I'm not
right in
seeing,
here.
yeah. So just to the northwest is, I believe, Gary's property. So it doesn't, the wetlands don't extend farther.
I heard you say 200 feet of wetlands that the driveway's gonna be going over. I disagree with that number.
Well, I'm just going,
After-
I'm just going by what's
I know,
flagged.
but that's inaccurate, because
So Gary, we're gonna have to,
that was like 400 feet of wetlands.
we're gonna have to wait till the end of the meeting, Gary.
Please save any more comments for the end. We're going on what we have here on the map,
Okay.
and that's what we're gonna go with. These are delineated previously, so.
So can we just talk about the fill?
So,
I'm trying to
to
figure out.
that point, actually,
Because
Judy, who's our new planning director, is gonna be requesting cuts and fill estimates. So we can get an idea of the cubic yards that's gonna have to be placed in order to meet the necessary slopes.
We have some, we have the volumes here that are required within the actual wetland area and the upland review area. They're already on the plan.
So that'll be up top on the first page.
Cut volume.
Does that address your question, Donna?
So there's,
So there's no,
the
no cut
driveways, like,
proposed.
we have a typical cross-section too, if you want to see what the driveway kind of will look like.
Yeah, because,
Over on this drawing right here, on the second page.
okay.
Cross-section of the driveway is 15 feet wide. That's just the bare minimum width to be wide enough to meet access, to provide access for two houses. And then there's a 3-to-1 slope on the fill side.
But that's like left to right, like.
Yes.
How about, because that's, okay.
This is the profile along, like if you're driving along the driveway. So this is where you would be, approach the road. And then you'd go down, and then reach a low point at about 100 feet in, and then start going back up towards the house site. And then we provided this little, just cross culvert there to allow the drainage to pass from the north to the south.
Okay, so so there is a way for the water to pass.
Exactly,
Mhm.
right. That's why we put that culvert there. It's a relatively small drainage area. As we saw in the field, the street drainage comes onto the property just to the south of where the driveway is, and that really is what feeds that wetland system. So we're just staying up gradient of that.
There also was some concern about, though, that alleviating or diminishing the steepness of the,
Right.
From the road, that first,
It's about 20 or 30
first
feet.
20 or 30
Right,
feet was gonna
right.
be pretty steep.
Yeah, you're,
It's actually not that steep. It's 4.8%, and that's for 20 feet.
So you've modified it a little bit.
We've actually left it the way it is. Based on my discussion with the Public Works Director, I explained to him that it met the town's regulations for the driveway. But I told him we'd be more than happy to make it a little bit flatter. I wouldn't really amount to
I think
much.
the concern is on paper, it looks steeper
This is-
than in practice.
So this is, 4.8% would be a rise of 4.8 feet over a horizontal distance of 100 feet, which is very flat. So this is an exaggerated scale, so it's
your
exaggerated 10
vertical
times
scale is
vertically.
2 feet, your
Right.
horizontal scale is a little different.
Right.
It doesn't-
So
yeah,
it's
40 feet.
exaggerated at 10 times, so it just looks steeper than it is.
So there's, I guess to Donna's point, there's no cut in the wetland.
No, it's basically just, if you look on the profile, there's that fill that, as you just come off the road, because there's a steep bank there. And then we're basically just following, staying above the existing grade a little bit. And then, once you get out of the regulated area, there's a little bit of a cut on the left side. There's like a little bit of a hill that comes down. but that's outside of the regulated area.
It looks like the most significant fill, Donna, would be just off the road there,
That's correct.
Okay.
in that first 80 feet.
Oh, I see now. The dashed line and the salt, okay.
Well, so,
Right.
and as we go up the hill, there is some fill and cut,
Yeah,
but that's
yeah, yeah.
outside of the regulated
And
area.
as it comes up, that is the natural progression of the slope there. And where the houses are being built does climb the gradient a bit, gets into a drier area. Once you get to like that stone wall, you've kind of plateaued, as you can see on the first map.
But it still looks like there's gonna be a good bit of fill and grading within the wetland area.
There is. We've accounted for that in our numbers here. So we have the fill in the wetlands in the regulated area. We have it separated out. And again, that's primarily because that first section off the road is it's very steep right now, so
Yeah,
the roadway embankment's pretty steep.
Can you, and I was diving into this, can you explain why there was a special exception note included in the application? It related to, and I can give it to you for your reference.
Special exception note.
Correct, yeah, related to 1384, the owner applicant. It was Schedule A property description, special exception.
I don't know, is that this?
That's
The concern was the special
might have
exception
been,
included verbiage that the property can be utilized as a garage, which clearly is the opposite property.
I don't believe that's this property.
It,
That's
right,
the property on Southford Road.
but it was included in your application, that's kind of why I'm questioning it. Was it included in error?
I don't know how this,
It's a different
I don't know where it
parcel,
came from.
isn't it, on the backside?
Correct, yes.
I don't recall, did you guys put this in here?
No.
So this is, 306 Southford Road. Let me just see something here.
Okay.
174,000.
And that it ends up lining up exactly with the subject property at the Hairy Dog Garage.
I don't know what that, so this is this is the garage property?
Correct, yeah.
low
Yeah, so
point.
that's a separate parcel.
Yep,
You're supposed to put
So,
another drain halfway down the road.
but it was included in the
I
application.
don't believe that belongs to this
Okay,
parcel.
so that portion is included in error.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Add that to the draft.
18-inch pipe about halfway down
Take
the
that out.
driveway.
Understood.
Water
Yep.
flowing.
Okay, 18 inches.
Yeah.
The wetland, I guess, up gradient
Oh, that's the original.
of the crossing, or not the crossing.
To the northwest?
Okay, up in this
Where are we
area,
here?
just above the driveway upgrade?
I mean,
Exactly, yeah.
we're a 15-inch culvert. What are we expecting to see through that?
There's very little drainage area upgrade of that. Like I said, most of the runoff just comes in, the town's catch basins are connected. There's a high point to the north, and there's 4 basins that all discharge.
Is that curved there?
It is curbed, so
Okay.
everything's kind of
I think
being
I remember when that
funneled
came
right
through.
down, and then it discharges just below our drive. We put the driveway just upgrade of where the basin discharges, because obviously that would be a lot more water to
Just
convey.
for my own knowledge, is there any requirement for maintaining a culvert in that?
There's no, it's just a flared end, it's 15-inch diameter. It would just be, if a tree falls down or something like that, it's a pretty good size opening. It's
Public
not,
Works runs into this issue quite often,
but,
because
I mean,
that culvert will be owned privately, and it would be the
It's a homeowner's responsibility. to
responsibility of the
make sure,
homeowner.
but,
But often that,
Culverts, the
the
culverts are
culvert that would
homeowners?
get installed for
Well,
the
the
drainage.
driveway culvert
Oh,
that's
okay.
proposed
Yep.
here.
Not the one coming off the road.
No.
No, no,
And
of
that-
course not.
And that driveway culvert is at the lowest point in
Right.
that whole driveway.
Correct.
So theoretically, all the water will have an opportunity to drain across.
but often owners don't understand the need to clean out culverts, and they don't understand that it is their responsibility. Public Works runs into this problem quite often because we get flooding along roads and things of that nature because so many private culverts aren't being maintained properly.
Is that something we could request to be added?
We could certainly add a note to the plan,
Will be
some
maintained
type of maintenance.
periodically?
Sure, maybe twice a year that the leaves.
Or even
and-
just look at it to
Yeah,
see
review it,
what's going on.
inspect it, sure.
Because it seems to me if the up gradient side of that were to get plugged, it would potentially undermine your driveway in a big storm. Yep. Given that the storm drains in that road are plugged, as we heard before.
Do you have anything of note for the potential plugging of culverts and storm drains that
have-
was noted by Gary?
We
previously?
didn't notice any, there's no erosion anywhere there. The site is all stable. The culverts on the road are both functioning. I didn't see the video, but I believe it was on
Yeah,
188,
downgradient
which
of
is
the
further
site.
to the south,
Understood.
which is 10 to 15 feet vertically lower than where
Yep.
we are here.
Okay.
Both outlet ends of each of the catch basins that drain onto the property were open, daily draining, so. And we did have obviously we had the wetlands delineated by a professional soil scientist, that was done in, Eric Davis, and the report was submitted with the application. So that is the actual
The
wetland boundary.
delineation here on the map is not necessarily the same as what you'd find
Right.
on our GIS, I guess would be of note here.
This is field delineated wetlands.
So
That is
they
the
took
boundary.
soil samples to delineate the wetland area, and then measured our 50-foot setback from that. Okay. Any questions? Do we ask about mitigation for this?
I don't think we've received anything in the form of mitigation details.
I know we've done this, wetland crossing for a driveway in the past. I don't know in particular that we've ever had any mitigation plans.
I did speak to our soil scientist about it, and sometimes in these wooded areas, we're just making a really narrow footprint through here. We wouldn't really want to, it's not really beneficial to clear an area to
Right.
plant it, because it's all wooded already. So we're just going to try and keep that limit of disturbance just a bare minimum width.
At a bare minimum, okay.
And then just keep the rest. There is a lot of trees that have been blown down from the hurricane or tornado, whatever went through there, and they're still uprooted, obviously, because there's a high water table where the wetlands is. So they have a shallow root system there. Those will be cleaned up as part of the driveway installation,
But just in that area?
just in that area, right?
Potentially moving on, the notes within the resolution. Number 10 is construction activities within the 50-foot regulated area, and the wetlands are to be monitored by a professional engineer or licensed soil scientist at the applicant's expense, and site reports are to be submitted to the land use office daily. And number 11 would be maintenance of erosion controls to be expected monthly by inland wetlands enforcement officer. Similar to 280 Jeremy Swamp.
And the cubic yards.
Well, it's a lot of fill.
Mhm.
Almost 300 cubic yards of fill. Where's this fill coming from?
Oh, just be local. And most of that's right off the road, just because it, like I said, it just drops off so steep. So they usually will get the fill from as close by as possible to reduce the trucking. But most of that is just gonna go right in this area right here.
They'll also need to meet the necessary slopes on either end to the necessary grade so that the fill isn't just confined to where the driveway will be. It does slope beyond that portion as well.
Do they do any kind of soil testing? I'm just kinda curious how it works.
Did we do?
The
pardon?
soil testing.
Like an analysis of the soil to be used?
Just common fill that they bring in.
You can,
Could be from a house site that's being dug nearby, you know, where they have surplus fill. It's usually from a nearby source. It just kind of depends on the timing, what's available. It might be from the property on Route 67 there, where they're taking the rock out there. It could be that.
often fill materials can be included with recycled bituminous asphalt, concrete, recycled materials such as that. So if you wanted to include a stipulation that it needed to be a clean material with no recycled process or anything like that, I think that's
A known source.
a normal source of material from anything that isn't being
We don't want any bituminous.
processed or
They
recycled.
probably haven't
Millings and-
specified
Millings.
where it's coming from at this point, as I think.
Correct.
Not at
you
this
know,
point, but it could be made part.
You know, certified clean fill.
Well, there also,
It's going in a wetland area.
Yeah.
I think that's a great idea.
this is also
Yeah.
written in here too about land use being informed daily of the activities that involved as wetland area.
And involved with that will be the delivery of said fill.
Right.
That would absolutely be included in that daily report and log.
I'm sure there are a lot of people trying to get rid of dirty soil.
Sure.
Less expensive to just,
You're not wrong at all.
It's a little bit more complicated than that, because there's a custody chain when you have contaminated soil. You can't just, yeah.
Oh, but like Jordan said, there's certain things that are not considered hazardous that don't
Right,
go,
right.
don't fall under that
Yeah, it'll meet your gradation.
Right.
definition,
But-
so. But either way, I think
oh, why not?
from a
Yep, it's a
clean
good
fill
idea.
source
Yeah.
can be added to the draft resolution.
So portions to be added are the removal of the supplemented information corrective warranty deed that lists the adjacent property and schedule a property description that pertains to the adjacent property revolving around a special exception. A note for the clearing and maintaining of the culvert at a specified interval, and the use of only certified clean fill on top of the stipulations already listed and
Any
stated.
thoughts on the maintenance of the culvert as far as timing? Jordan, I don't think there's a spec
Annual.
for that, but,
I don't think so either.
Probably twice a year, like biannually, just,
I mean, even just looking at it, make
Right.
sure it's not plugged. That's that, you know,
How is traffic control handled on the road when they bring the trucks in? How are you gonna do that?
but I'll have to coordinate that with the project director of Public Works.
Okay.
When we get the driveway, or when she gets the driveway permit.
Yeah, because I know they're concerned with the,
Yeah. Yep.
okay.
And while on site, their concerns aren't unfounded.
Yeah.
There were
No, it was-
you were there.
Yeah.
I know, I
there's
couldn't
Cars
believe it
whipping down the
myself,
road
yeah.
at
Yep.
60 miles an hour
For just
with
shortcut.
Yeah.
4 or 5 people standing right along a guardrail.
No, I
Like, it
definitely
was
think there's some traffic control has to be
absolutely
there when you have
dangerous, and, yeah.
that type of truck's probably backing in there or whatever they're gonna do, you know?
I mean, that's not something we can attach to our
No.
draft resolution,
Correct.
unfortunately, but.
It's just a reality of construction when it comes to these types of things, but,
Any
the
other,
addition of wetlands markers, is that something you guys would like to consider at this time?
if we were to put wetland markers at the 50-foot, that would put it somewhere by the driveway.
And then into the other parcel, or proposed,
On this side as well.
and then I think beyond, so we can understand how the wetlands is shaped, from an on-site perspective.
I think it's a good
I'd say
idea.
3.
What, every 100 feet?
We could do them 50 feet, because it's kind of a weird shape.
It's a weird shape that I think
Otherwise,
would
you're
benefit
just
from
gonna end up with
delineation.
Straight
100
lines.
feet would probably be too
Yeah.
much.
It'd be hard to figure out the line.
A couple more markers.
I'm I'm okay with that.
So I will add, wetlands markers noted every 50.
On the setback, or on no actual wetlands, did you want?
You guys do it on the regulated area portion? Boundary? Yeah, because that's what I've seen.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah, the one we were at, we're talking about with the trees.
correct.
That's where it was.
Yep.
Where it goes.
Is there anything else you'd like
Any
to
other
consider?
questions for the engineer?
Yeah, I think at this time, it would be beneficial prior to moving to a approval standpoint to hear from the public if there's any disagreements as far as this goes. But before we do that, Ron, is there anything else you'd like to state as far as this goes? You kind of have a
Yeah.
time to retort anything that's stated as
No,
far
I'd
as
be
this
more than
goes?
happy to answer anybody's questions reasonably, as long as they pertain to the property. I can't really control what happens on Route 188, obviously, state road, state culvert, 500 feet away, but anything on this property, I think I can answer your questions.
Okay, so is everybody okay with taking public comment at this point? We need to vote
Okay.
on that?
No, I think you're fine. Ron, I think you're good to sit down. If anyone would like to come up and ask any questions, just come up and state your name and speak into the microphone.
And I just want to make a note, we need to keep it pertaining to this particular the two properties in question. And
Thank you.
My
The wetlands associated.
name is
with that.
Harold Davis, and I own the bulk of the property, the southwest. You, Mr. Engineer, you said there's a culvert under the driveway.
Proposed, yes.
How big of a culvert? And I assume it's at the low spot,
Yes, it is. It's 15-inch in diameter.
15 inch?
Yes.
Is this driveway paved,
No,
gravel,
gravel, yes.
not crushed
It
stone or
doesn't
anything?
have to be paved because it's less.
No,
than
I understand. I'm just trying to get a
but
feel for what it
It's
is.
proposed to be gravel.
Gravelled, not crushed stone or
Like a process gravel.
process stone, take.
Yeah.
Mm.
Not millings,
And
I think.
there's no drainage along the length of the thing, it's just sheet drain?
Yes, correct. There's no curbs and no,
And you don't expect it to flow this way down into the wetlands?
it will flow that way.
It will flow that
Yes,
way?
Yes.
Do we know how much will flow that way? Have you done a
Well, the
calculation on
driveway
that?
is pitched to that direction.
Okay,
So we kind of want it to go that way.
Okay.
If some of it does go to the north, then
Mhm.
it'll end up in that culvert.
but being not paved, it'll basically stay here. If it was paved, it would run off.
You're gonna get a little bit more, a slower
Right, but
runoff.
not all of it will run off
But not
as though it
It
were
won't
paved.
run off as
If
quickly.
it were an
Right.
asphalt driveway, it would
It would run off quicker.
run off
You
quicker.
get more volume in the low area.
It's the same amount of water, but it's a different time of concentration.
Mhm.
But since it's not paved, it's just sheet flows.
Right.
It's not concentrated to a certain point.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
I do have a question.
Yep, Gary?
You mentioned about the soil samples. When are they gonna be taken?
They've already been taken.
They've already been taken.
The survey's been
Now,
conducted.
state your name, will you?
Yep, state your name and address, Gary.
Gary Diamond, 128 Burma Road, Southbury. From my personal observation, this area right here is all wetlands. It was all covered with standing water on it. And I just want to know if soil samples were taken from this end over here.
Basically, as you're looking at that map, Gary, the line with the triangle flags on it
Yeah.
is your wetlands boundary.
Mm-hmm.
And the samples taken would be not in particular where the flags are, but show the extent of the wetlands in that shape.
Okay,
So
all right.
we can't take soil samples on somebody else's property pertaining to this. I'm not sure if that's what you're asking. But there was soil samples, I would
Well,
imagine.
the red
taken.
line here marks where the George's land is over here.
Yeah.
And from my own eyes, I saw water here on George's land, all over this part over here, and the water went all the way back to here. It was basically, all here was wet
withstanding at least 6 inches of water on this end. This end over here was like 2 feet of water before it got unblocked by me. And if I didn't go to the Department of Transportation, this land would still be sitting underneath water right now, okay? Because nobody cared. In fact, nobody even spoke up. I was the only person who bitched and complained about it. And the owner who was buying this land should really thank me for getting it unplugged, because right now it'd be sitting underneath water, okay? But it is what it is. But this area here, I'm asking the town of Southbury to go back and do soil samples on this end of the land over here, because there was water there.
I could just answer that. So typically, my soil scientist will just, everywhere you see a flag,
Oh, it is?
yeah,
Okay.
he'll do a boring, a hand boring.
Yeah.
And then, well, he'll work his way in until he reaches the boundary of the wetland. He'll just keep
Yep.
working his way in with the hand boring, and then when he hits that boundary, he'll,
So conceivably, there were two, if I'm looking at that right, two soil samples
To the northwest.
to the northwest of the proposed driveway.
yeah, there's,
Number
well,
7.
yeah, right here at the property line we stopped.
Yep,
Um,
these
but,
two
yeah,
here.
so that would be number 6 would have been right.
And then,
Right,
Gary,
right on
to,
the
to your
property.
point,
Six down near
from
the
those
road.
two samples, the topography of this map shows it going up, each line, it represents 2 feet going uphill from that. So at the toe of the slope is where those two samples were
Honestly,
taken.
I think the driveway is gonna collapse that they're building there. They're gonna have problems.
Okay.
I wish I had some still pictures of what the sand looked like, because it was just a huge pond there. The trees were dying. They were flooded. The trees, if you look at the trees, you'll see marks on the trees where the water line was. You'll see it was way up there. Trees were dying. And that was concerning me. I was talking to her neighbor Barbara. She said, "Why are the trees dying?" I said, "Let me take a walk down." "Oh, God, it's all the water's here." She thought there was disease. She thought they were ash trees. They're not ash trees. I says, "Trust me, it's water." So I went and investigated, and I found out the water was blocked up, okay? And that's why the land's flooded. We don't know if the land gets blocked up down there again. I know you don't care about what happened to 188, but if it gets blocked up down there, it will screw up the driveway over there. I understand that. I understand.
We
And that's-
do have the culvert that will allow the water.
That culvert was blocked up.
No, I mean, we have a culvert also proposed under our
proposed for the
driveway.
Yeah, I
driveway.
understand,
That will
but
let
if
the
the culvert in the land is blocked up that goes underneath 188, it's gonna back up right up to your culvert. It's gotta go someplace.
Okay, Gary, we can't talk about, and I understand your concern, and if it does get blocked up, you are right, absolutely, it'll back up. But for this particular application, he's got a culvert that goes under the driveway, and we have a note to ensure that they are going to clear their own culvert
No,
at that point,
I
so,
just wanna make my points here.
okay.
Later on, there'll be problems. I worry about the mosquitoes, okay? I don't want to
Yep.
live near a swamp. It's my only concern. I don't care about if the driveway collapses. I don't care about it. I just don't want to live near a swamp.
Okay. You all set?
I'm done.
Thank you, Gary.
Hi, I'm Vivian Michaels, live on Burma Road. I live across the street from this proposed thing. He's saying that there's gonna be culverts here to help the water drain. Well, won't it be draining and adding more water to the wetlands?
It would just
If
be
it's gonna
moving,
drain this way, I mean, there's wetlands on both sides. I mean, I agree with Gary. The map might not show it, and you're not worried about this, but that the property that is not in question, this is private, the Devoid's property. But, I mean, I'll tell you, there's all skunk cabbage there. And where do you see skunk cabbage? In swamps. Okay, I've seen it. But anyway, if the water's gonna drain off with the culverts this way, isn't it going to add more wet to the wetlands? What am I
So-
not
So
understanding?
we're not changing
Am I not
no.
understanding?
Let me help explain that. We're not changing the amount of rainfall or anything.
No.
That stays the same. We're just, since we are putting a driveway through here, the only reason for the culvert is just to allow for the passage of water.
That would have
So the
naturally
driveway-
occurred.
Instead,
That
we
would
don't
be
wanna-
there anyway.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we want it
okay.
to get from one
The
side to
driveway
the
will be
other.
higher than the grade as it is now.
Yeah.
And they have to allow water to pass through. That's
Okay.
why the culvert's there.
Okay, so maybe I just wasn't
There,
understanding.
and to Bill's point, there's no water coming down the driveway that's gonna add to that. I mean, there will be some, but
Right.
not,
Right.
as much as it was
But I'll tell
asphalt
you, this
or-
side of Burma Road, it's true, it's all hill.
It's a,
Yeah.
All of us have steep driveways, so all that water does run down. But that's been there anyway. So, I can't complain about that. But personally, as I listen to it, and I'm no engineer, that's what I mumbled to Gary. That damn driveway's gonna collapse. But if they're stupid enough to do it, it's their problem. So,
Yeah. Okay,
are you all set, Ron?
Yes.
Yeah.
any other
Okay.
questions for Ron? Discussion on this application? I think we've addressed the major concerns. Keeping the culvert clear and keeping the fill somewhat clean, I would imagine, is
As long
really
as-
the major impact.
And as long as the culvert is sized the right way.
Yeah, I mean,
Regulations?
considering there's not current flow there now, it may be wet, yes, but there's not a channel of any kind, so.
Conceivably, it would suffice.
What was that?
Conceivably, that culvert would suffice, given that there's no active channeling.
Yeah, 15 inches is big enough, and it's gonna pass leaves, but, like we've had comments, these things get blocked up if nobody's looking at it, so that's why we add that note.
Dan, Thad mentioned his report halfway down the driveway, Ron mentioned that there was gonna be an 18-inch pipe. Is that the case? And
15-inch.
15.
15?
And it's about 50 feet in or so from the road.
Okay, so can you
That's the
point
cul-
out?
That's the culvert that's right
And so
here.
where's, okay.
And then it's shown on,
Is the one.
it's
Oh, that
shown
is-
right here,
that is- so
50
it's not
feet in.
additionally, right, okay.
It wasn't
got it.
an 18-inch pipe and got downsized, it
always
was
been
originally a
15, yeah.
15-inch pipe.
All right, I understand.
Just,
Okay,
might have just been.
my mistake.
No, that's, just be clear, that's all. Any other questions? Thoughts? Do I have a motion to approve or deny? With the addition of the removal of the off-site parcel that was included.
That off-site parcel paperwork relates to a corrective warranty deed
Okay.
and a Schedule A property description.
That was put in erroneously, I guess. Add the note for clearing and maintaining of the culvert periodically, twice a year, I think is
We're
what
looking at twice
You
a year.
can't recommend traffic control too?
That doesn't pertain to wetlands.
Okay.
Certifying the fill to be of uncontaminated anyways.
Good, clean fill.
Yeah. From a known location. Are we gonna require that it has some sort of sample associated with it?
A lab analysis, I think that's perfectly acceptable.
That's a pretty standard thing.
Yeah, they're gonna run a gradation on it,
If
but
it's-
to,
if it's
to
gonna
get,
be
you know,
In the wetlands. I think, did we do that for, Old Waterbury Road?
the church with the,
They were, just the storage, all the soil storage that they had. going
Oh,
on
coming
there.
from,
Oh, because it was coming from Kmart Plaza, that's why.
and then with the addition of, 50-foot wetland markers along the regulated area boundary. With those 4 additions to the draft resolution as it currently is.
All right, I'll make the motion to approve application 1703 with the aforementioned revisions, modifications.
Do you have a second? Bob, second?
I'll second it.
All in favor? Aye. Motion carries.
Thank you.
thank you, Ron.
on to application 1704, Hollow Swamp Estates, Angelo Macris to renew permit 1446, which was for 1,950 square feet of buffer disturbance for a driveway. This one I am not familiar with.
So this is a permit renewal.
Okay.
Not had the opportunity to review. But today you will just be accepting the application.
Okay. Motion to accept the application into,
Move to accept the application.
okay,
I'll
second it. Motion carries.
Would you like to speak on the application at all?
Only if you have questions.
Not as of right now.
The only thing I have to say is that.
Just come up and state your name real quick, if you don't mind.
Please.
Angelo Macris, just reapplying something that existed for many years. Nothing has changed. All I'm looking for is a renewal of the wetlands approval.
Okay. And you were granted approval for installation of a driveway for potential building lot? Or-
Whatever was requested and approved in that large packet there
Okay.
is all I'm trying to revive. Nothing has changed. It's all the
How long was
same.
the approval, how long did you have the approval for?
Well, the approval was 2009, it expired in 17, 9 years, I think, is what the wetlands in Southbury,
And it expired in
it expired in
2007?
2017, but the town never told me, so I didn't know. So I sold the land, and I came to the town, and they said, oh, this is expired. I said, oh, when were you gonna tell me? We don't have to tell you. So here I am.
So you've sold the land at this point?
No.
Oh, it's still your property, okay.
Yeah, it's still
Just
mine, it's still mine,
start at the
and
basics.
I have it under contract, but the new owner wants me to revive.
Okay, renew. So
Understood.
I guess are we asking for another application? Right, how do we do
This isn't-
renewal?
Right, this
Well, I
is
think
an
that what I
expired
got there-
application, so it would come as a new application, given that the previous permit has expired, and it wasn't renewed during the timeline necessary.
Yeah, so you need to submit a new application for that.
I thought that's what I did.
Right, you stipulated that it's an application for renewal of permit, so we would have to remove the renewal portion and consider the application on its merits as a new application, regardless of the previous approval due to the expiration.
Is this something we're prepared to move on now? I think we need does this warrant a site visit?
Oh, 100%, yeah. This is just, you're accepting the application, as with any other application that we accept in this
Yep.
commission. We will perform a site walk. Angela the office will contact you for approval of said site walk. If you wanted to be involved, we would definitely recommend it. And it'll give the commission some time to review the supplied information prior to that.
So work with Jordan.
I don't know what that all means, but,
So
I
there's
mean,
not,
after your site walk and you see that everything is pretty much the same as it was
next month we
13
can.
years ago, then what happens?
Next month, we'll meet just as we are today, and then the commission will consider all the details provided that we'll have time to go over then, as well as the site walk giving us information then, and then they'll make their decision, just as they've made their decision for a number of applications
So
today.
that'll be January 13th?
Is it
Well,
the
any-
13th? It's in
around,
Jan,
yep,
yeah.
second
yeah,
Tuesday of the
second
month.
Tuesday.
Tuesday.
Same room.
So you don't need anything from me between now and then?
If there's anything I need, I'll reach out to you, Angela.
Thank you.
Of course.
Great.
Appreciate you
Have a
coming.
good night.
Yeah, you as
Thank
well. So motion to.
Motion to accept application 1704 for our consideration.
I'll make a motion to accept the application.
Rob motions. Rob seconds, rather. All in favor? Aye. Okay, other business. Aquifer regulations discussion.
I reached out to the water company and have not heard back. The woman I spoke with seemed very confused. She said she'd put me through to the necessary individual that deals with aquifer delineation maps that we need to proceed in this capacity, and I've yet to hear back pertaining to that information, but I will continue to.
Well, they do have aquifer protection areas.
Mhm.
Like so,
But we need the maps in order to determine how we want to proceed.
Who's
and
regulated and
Who's
who's not.
regulated, who needs to be notified, how we as a commission want to adjust the lines as they can be adjusted. If they cross one property, we can adjust the lines to only lay on property boundaries and things of that nature. Just to make things less confusing, you live on half an aquifer protection and half you don't.
so she wasn't, you just didn't get back.
I just haven't gotten that information yet.
She hasn't got back.
Okay. Report of officers, anything else new to talk about?
So I got
Or new or
my staff report here. I promise I'll try and be brief. December 13th, 2022, staff report. Site is referenced to the Bennett Park application. If you all remember, the Bennett Park application was provided or submitted by Gary Gollenberg for the maintenance, restoration, however you, and it doesn't pertain to this picture, I'm sorry, I keep looking up there, it has nothing to do with this, of the slope that's being heavily eroded there at Bennett Park. So, I mean, do you guys want me to read through this, be submitted into the record?
I mean, I don't,
Essentially, like, you by all means, take this document home. This is not something you need to leave within your packet. Essentially, we met with a number of individuals. We met with someone, Todd Bobowick, who is the NRCS State Forester and Fishery Biologist. We met with the Regional Director of Ecological Restoration at Save the Sound and River Restoration Project, Laura Wildman, Senior Ecologist at Biohabitats, Joshua Wilson, as well as the Pomperaug River Watershed Coalition, Carol Haskins and Ann Urkowick, as well as the members of the Conservation Commission. Essentially, what they're looking at as far as that project goes is something pretty unique and something that I think is pretty cool as far as Southbury goes. They have the opportunity at a bona fide restoration and renewal of what the river has long since been, disconnected from, and that's its floodplain. As the river kind of undulates and changes, it's a very active river, it changes constantly. If we get another 100-year storm, there's a good chance you're gonna go out there and it's gonna be operating in a different way than when you saw it right before that storm. What they are proposing, discussing, is reconnecting the disconnected areas back to the floodplain through the implementation of shelving, the introduction of selective planting. It's all laid out in the site report here, staff report, but essentially it's a pretty unique situation because the river isn't impeded by infrastructure. There's not houses and highways and things of that nature. You're on one side, you're on Southbury Town land, and on the other side you have a giant dog park. The dog park's pretty well connected to the floodplain, so I don't anticipate there being much that they need to do there. It's really all on the town of Southbury side of the river anyways that needs to be reconnected through shelving. But
can you speak to shelving as far as the
right,
mechanical there?
so I don't think I have my previous report.
This is not something that's gonna get acted on tonight. so
Not even a
this
little
is,
bit,
you
no.
know, something we can, I guess, look at in the next meeting as well.
Yeah, I have a question. This lady goes and tears this riprap all apart, saying that this is causing the erosion, it's, making these banks collapse and everything else. I was under the impression that riprap was useful in reducing the erosion.
It can be. So what ends up happening, and
How far do you go? There's gotta be an end to it at some point, like the end of the riprap. And what happens is you end up with everything from there up having more impact
And
to
then
the
once it
bank.
gets behind there, it just erodes all the way downstream.
And you can erode through riprap. I mean,
That
not
just
too-
requires maintenance.
yeah, it's not uncommon for those things to collapse behind a riprap wall.
So
or
you have
bank.
riprap up gradient of that stream. We were, as we walked the site, it was, shown to us, this is what they did previously, we want to do that again down gradient.
That was
And
initially
they
what they
also
wanted
showed
to
us
do.
across the river, on the
On the
O&G
dog park side,
they have the large pieces of,
that's still on that's still on the Southbury Town side.
oh, it is?
Yeah, unless it's towards where the bridge was
So
that you were
towards the bridge,
discussing.
they've got all these
Towards the
big
bridge,
rocks
okay.
on that side.
And the bridge is a piece of infrastructure that cannot move, no matter how hard we, the river tries, we're gonna do everything we can to make sure that that stays the same. What ended up happening, up gradient, where they walked us up, and there's a bench there that overlooks the dog park, they do have a riprap infrastructure. It's been in place for decades as far as this goes. What ends up occurring is when you put in infrastructure, it impedes the movement and natural flooding and settling and maneuver of the river, so it ends up eating away somewhere else down gradient. And we're kind of experiencing that right now. As the river is disconnected from its floodplain, it can't go over top and flood the area. What it does now is chew down and sideways, which is further disconnecting it from its floodplain, because it's just eating away at a bank and also digging down at the same time, because as the river comes around, it meets its max velocity, which means it's gonna cause the most erosion. Through shelving, you would cut that plateau in half, draw it back a bit, it would essentially reconnect and have a stable step in order to floodplain over.
So
There
you
would
would
be,
cut out some of that green grass area,
yep,
and,
there would,
It would be going in
Stepped
lifts
up.
or steps going
Exactly.
out, instead of having
and
a
you
big
don't think those
riprap
would
wall.
erode, eventually erode also?
it would reconnect it to its floodplain, and through selective planting, you would have better plants with larger root systems. They would be flexible. So essentially, you got root systems holding the soil in place, right? And during a flood event, all those plants are gonna be underwater. When they're flexible, what they end up doing is falling on top of each other and kind of layering on top of each other and creating an additional barrier for the bed of the river that also reduces erosion. What we have right now is exposed sand and no vegetation,
Well, some of it is just sitting there waiting to collapse.
100%.
Yeah.
And it's also a risk to the patrons at the park. If you got a kid that's,
Well,
you
right
know,
where those benches are, right when you walk out there,
Overzealous.
that huge bank of riprap there, I mean, that's what they're trying to avoid, to take that up from the normal river, up, bench it, in steps, rather than having it straight up.
So we just want to kind of control the flood.
if there was a flood event, it wouldn't chew away at the
Dissipate
basin
out,
anymore. It
rather
would,
than focusing more in a narrower channel.
which reduces the energy, which reduces the erosion, which all is what a healthy river system does, which ours has since been disconnected, and this project could potentially,
Either that, or we could just put a big pipe and down into the aquifer and fill it up.
I like
There's
that.
that.
I like the way you think,
I
Ed.
like that idea.
I like that.
Funnel it over to my field.
There's a couple other things. Yeah, essentially that topples that. They want to put in a no-mow zone also, and it can be unsafe for people utilizing the park, having such a steep drop there, and there's no boundary at all whatsoever. If someone were to fall down, that could be hairy. They're gonna work on grants and things of that nature. Carol Haskins and Laura Wildman looked at this as a huge opportunity, and the state and the government is putting out a lot of grants right now for such projects. So the possibility of getting those is pretty high. Moving on to the oil spill at 270 Lee Farm Drive. A complaint was filed by Frank Cavallo regarding an oil spill that occurred on the roadway along his property at 260 Lee Farm Drive. Mr. Cavallo stated that the spill was caused by Timothy McCarthy while he was working on his car. Photos were supplied by Mr. Cavallo depicting the spill as well as a drain in close proximity to the spill that leads directly to Lake Zor. You can see the spill on site or on the photo, and you can see the drains, the driveway slopes right there, and essentially Lake Zor. You know, we're in the Berkshires, or no, we're in Lakeside, so, you know, it's right there as far as the lake goes. Went to the site, followed the drips from that spill up to the property. You can see the driveway just to the top left of the picture there. And it was in fact Mr. McCarthy's property at 270 Lee Farm Drive. Sent a notice of violation letter on 11/22. Mr. McCarthy contacted the office, and I stated that we're gonna have to conduct some cleaning up efforts. He stated he did something with a degreasing agent, but I informed Mr. McCarthy on a couple ecologically friendly oil spill cleanup products such as Oil Dry, and I requested that he purchase. Catherine can put up the material safety data sheet for Oil Dry pertaining to the ecological information. So I saw this as a good option for cleaning up an oil spill. If it were to get, you know, run off into the system and enter the waterway, it would be, you know, minimally impactive regarding what we're trying to rectify here. Went out there and monitored the application on 11/29 at 4:30 p.m. Application of Oil Dry was conducted and left overnight, and a site visit on 12/1 was to assess the condition, and Catherine can show the picture of the after.
Okay.
And this is essentially what it looks like. The Oil Dry did conduct a lot of absorption from the roadway. Definitely a new spill as far as it looks here, but this was a complaint and a notice of violation pertaining to wetlands that I wanted to bring to your,
So nothing went down a drain, though?
not to my knowledge.
Well, when we
It's
have
gonna-
rains,
It's gonna rain, it's gonna go
yeah.
down. But it's not like
So was
it
there,
didn't flow.
the Oil Dry was put on and left? They scraped it up?
Yeah.
I mean, that's, at that point, that's the best you can do.
Yeah. Not gonna-
So, can you go back to the first picture, please? I mean, the catch basin there, and that, so the, wait a minute, guy's property, Cavallo's property is, that's
Right.
his driveway?
Yep, you got it.
And his neighbor was doing,
Dead ahead.
I don't know, okay.
That's, yeah, that's the scope. If there's any additional cleanup that this commission would like, I'd be happy to work with Timothy.
You know, the runoff going into that storm drain and likely to Lake Zor, you know, be it that it's oil, I presume it's oil,
Mm-hmm.
like
Yep.
motor oil?
Yep.
That sort of thing, okay, will eventually make it there. I don't know. You can go down the rabbit hole here.
Yeah, no, I
it's
tried
a-
to follow best we could do as far as
Did the-
rectifying the problem, apart from ripping up the pavement and replacing it.
The applicant have any idea of the volume?
Yes, he did.
And I mean, obviously, we can't see it going into the drain, so it would just be whatever comes off in
It was like,
sheet flow.
he stated that he measured it afterwards and saw that it was like 5 quarts or something like that that he had lost, but I didn't include that in my report, so.
I mean, was this an accidental thing, or he was changing his oil next on the road? Just
Accidental.
let it rip? Okay. The intention was to capture the oil. Okay.
Accidental stated by the applicant. Apparently someone came whipping around the corner pretty quick, but that's neither here nor there.
Okay. I don't really know what else we would say about that.
Okay.
Best effort, I guess.
There's a
That's the best
5-gallon
effort.
or something rule where you have to notify the fire marshal.
Right.
Of any sort
Or
of
the
spill.
DEP. I did
It's
look up the.
unfortunate that it's right there, but,
Right up from the.
you know, the Oil Dry is probably the only thing that's gonna do any good. Looked like they wiped it up before you put the Oil Dry down.
Whether or not he did, I can't.
Yeah, I mean, it kinda,
Can't
well, either way, but,
Because 5 quarts wouldn't evaporate that quickly.
Right, yeah,
no, yeah, it's not gonna evaporate, no, but, okay.
All right. Lastly is a fish release site. Bob Laflamme contacted the land use department on December 1st to inform me that his wife had witnessed an unusual fish release occurring on Southbury Town land adjoining his property. Mr. Laflamme informed me that multiple men driving an SUV with out-of-state plates were performing a fish release into Lake Zor wearing camouflage. While Mrs. Laflamme questioned what the men were doing, they just stared at her. I asked if the fish release was being conducted, and Mr. Laflamme stated that they had already left. Upon receipt of this information, I placed multiple calls and emails to the DEP Fisheries Division on 12/12 at 2:24 p.m. I spoke with Matt Devine, a fishery biologist with the DEP Bureau of Natural Resources Fishery Division, and relayed the information given to me by Mr. Laflamme. Mr. Devine stated that he looked into my inquiry and confirmed that a permit was approved for the release of 14-inch hydro muskies from October 28th through December 30th. Mr. Devine also checked with the applicant of the permit to confirm the unusual use of out-of-state plates and the apparent dressing in camouflage during the release. Mr. Devine confirmed all the unusual details of the release and also expressed his desire to change the rules for fish release disclosures along private waterways. In the future, Mr. Devine would like to require that confirmation of the date and time be released, of the release be provided to the DEP in order to mitigate situations such as these. They commended Bob for calling and reporting this, commended the town of Southbury.
Unusual, because it's a walking path, and they had a black SUV with out-of-state plates drive down. I don't even know how I wouldn't even attempt it. And it goes across my land because it's an easement, and then they just backed up, came out with camouflage gear, and took boxes out and then went into the lake and cut the bags open. What are hydro muskies? I know what a tiger muskie is, but what's a hydro muskie?
Catherine, Google hydro muskies for us.
This sounds like a movie.
Hydro muskie, M-U-S-K-I-E.
Kind of depends on where they were getting those fish from.
Yeah.
You know, whether the guys were from out of state or not, and if they're on an easement, I mean, if it
What
were.
they did, they didn't come back the next day, but my neighbor reported they went up to the area where the, that's a hydro muskie?
Yeah. Hopefully
Well,
they
the
eat that
tiger
big.
muskies were, I saw pictures of them caught directly across from my house on the lake, and a guy holding one as big as those pictures. And I said, they must eat every fish around.
Seriously?
Well, I think what they're trying to go after is the carp, all the different
Really?
carp. Oh.
But the carp eats all the milfoil, right?
Well, in addition to everything else, they're as invasive a species as can be. I don't know the purpose for that personally, but,
No,
But it was
just kinda
approved.
and it was a
It was
DEP.
cryptic because there was no marking, no DP, no
Sounds like a
hats, no
movie.
none.
Well, that's a contracted thing.
The applicant doesn't work for the
You know, the
DEP.
DEP does their own trout releases, but as far as this sort of thing.
It would've been nice if it was trout or, bass or.
Either way, they commended you, Rob, so thank you for
Thanks.
reporting it.
As long as it wasn't a snakehead, I didn't care, I saw those things on TV where the snakeheads infiltrate the lakes and they're jumping in the boats, and, did you ever see that? It's incredible.
No, I've not had the pleasure.
Under the other business, bills and receipts. Is that you?
Catherine.
That's Catherine, okay. Okay.
So you have to vote to approve those.
Motion to approve the bills and receipts for November.
I'll move to approve the bills and receipts.
Will second. All in favor? Aye. Okay. Correspondence, potential bridge replacement.
That paper?
Yep,
There you go.
this guy here, so we're gonna read this into record. I have to read off all the names. Okay. November 21st, 2022, to the Chairman Richard Tierdo, Planning Commission, Chairman Gary Guru, Zoning Commission, Mark Kane, Zoning Board of Appeals, Chairman Ed Nagy, Conservation Commission, Chairman Bill Spencer, who's not with us. How do we do that? We're just reading it in.
We're still reading
Okay.
it in, yep.
Inland Wetlands Commission, Sergeant Kyle Rapp, Residence Trooper Supervisor, Corporal Christopher Grillo, Southbury Police Department, Tim Baldwin, Fire Marshal, Joshua Smith, Region 15. And this is, read the early notice of potential bridge replacement. The town of Southbury, Connecticut is contemplating a project to replace the Poverty Road Bridge over the Pomperaug River in the town of Southbury. The bridge replacement rehabilitation project would receive federal funds under the federal local bridge program administered by the Connecticut Department of Transportation. If the project is undertaken, the design would be expected to be in early 2023 and the construction likely 2025 or 2026. It is both municipal and state policy to keep persons and agencies informed and involved when such projects are conceived. It is important that the community share its concerns with us at this time to assist in the potential project's development. Public input is also sought at a later date when an informal meeting would be conducted upon completion of a preliminary project design. The need for formal public hearing would additionally be evaluated at that time. Anyone interested in obtaining further information or providing input may do so by contacting Blake Leonard at bleonard@southburyct.gov. Very truly yours, Blake Leonard, Project Manager. We have to vote on that? We don't have to vote on that.
Nope.
So. Okay. Minutes of November 15th meeting. It looks like we have everyone here can vote on that. Are there any concerns, questions, remarks? No? Motion to approve the regular meeting minutes of November 15th, 2022 meeting.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
Rob, seconds. All in favor? Aye. Motion carries. Okay, it would be the special meeting on November 29th. The show cause hearing, we talked about the Apple Real Estate, 1200 Main Street South. We did not talk about the other one, the Jeremy Swamp, at that meeting. Any questions, comments, or concerns about that? Motion to approve the minutes of the show cause hearing on November 29th?
I'll make a motion to approve the show cause minutes.
Okay, motion's Bob, seconded by Rob. All in favor? Aye. Motion carries. Any other business that may come before the commission? I don't see any.
We cleared them out.
Okay, motion to adjourn?
I'll make that motion.
Bob motions to adjourn. Rob will second it. Thank you very much for that marathon meeting. I'll be sure to thank Carl and Bill for that. They saw the agenda and they said, nah.
I've never